Off the cuff with WAPTech, I posted a video about a particular subject, and people have asked me off the cuff requests for some other subjects. What is your opinion on hung juries? To me, it means not guilty. To retry is double jeopardy. If you need a unanimous jury to convict, that means it's over, not guilty. Does it say you need a unanimous jury to say not guilty? Okay, I'm bringing this up. Many, if not all, jury trials, unless it involves something of a specific variety, only require that certain characteristics of the case be met, but for certain other things, like other stages where they have a jury doing multiple decisions, they require absolutely one way or another. To be blunt, I don't know the answer. But if it's a mistrial or a jury, it's called a hung jury, but if the jury cannot make a complete decision, should it result in the case being retried? Depending, yes. Is it double jeopardy? No. Trying and attempting to convict a person once, but it does not allow for a second, dip at the pot or whatever. That's one of those things that's bothered me. I don't know. And this, I'm sorry, but it depends. If somebody is being accused of doing something like, let's just do Donald Trump, because that's one of my, obviously people think that's one of my favorite ones. Whataboutism here. But let's do this. Donald Trump was convicted 34 times of criminal acts, and he's a criminal within a specific state. Should that apply everywhere in the country? Should it be beyond that? Because it has meaning beyond that. Well, should it negate his ability to be president? He was found guilty before he ran. High crimes and misdemeanors, by definition, this is above misdemeanor. Should that also extend? Should we do that? Well, there's a bunch of written rules by self-serving politicians that want to stay in power, and entire political campaigns and entire political subsets, otherwise known as political parties, who want to have power and do not want to have it impinged on even a little bit. They're extremely jealous of their positions. But to you and me, do you want a person who's a failed criminal who couldn't get away with it to be president? Let me phrase it that way. Next, I'm going to bring up another one. We're going to do this directly back and forth here, but on hung juries or mistrials, it depends. That's why sometimes they're like, no, you can't have another trial. Why? Because, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up an Oregon state law. This has nothing to do with trials, I know, but it has to do with our legal system and how we make decisions. When you're in a trial, the people are making a decision about whether or not you need to be eliminated from the population, literally or just effectively by taking you out and putting you away somewhere. So we'll talk about a law in Oregon. Someone decided that the people of the state of Oregon should vote on a law that was so poorly written we can't implement it because it's self-contradicting in some ways, depending on how you look at it, and not depending on how you look at it, it's not enforceable. It has to do with a whole bunch of procedures that would be, some would say, and I would say, kind of draconian, to even own a gun at all. And it also presumes that a bunch of rules that are never been in question should be put in question. Okay. Should there be another dip at the trough? Should we be allowed? Yeah, we should. The original one should be nullified and should never be permitted to be brought in and should be declared this is dead on arrival. Should have happened before it ever went to the voting public. But the voting public voted on it. So should we be allowed to, as a people, be allowed to vote in such a way that we overrule our rulers and put a rule in, even if it's a dumb cough, fucked up thing again? Yeah, that's part of how our system works. But should it be? Should it work that way at your workplace where the son of a boss comes in and makes up a rule that can't be implemented and you end up going out of business? The answer should be no. Okay, now let's take it again with a criminal trial. If the jury can't decide you're completely guilty, you are innocent. They failed. That's one absolutist end. The other one is they should be able to prosecute you over and over again. If you're innocent, it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, that isn't the right way to say it. The jury screwed up. Why should that prevent the system from convicting you? Unless you have an ideal, nearly perfect legal system, you're going to have fuck-ups. But that should be a demand we all make when we go in. Because the legal systems in most countries, including this one, are rigged against whoever's the accused. It's a presumption of guilt. So on that basis, if I'm going to be a purist, a hung jury or any failure to prosecute should nullify the ability of them to bring the case again. But on the other end of it, do screw-ups happen? So again, that's why it depends. Now I'm going to do something I really shouldn't do. Do a video about Hunter Biden and the Biden family crime syndicate claims that people get. I'm waiting for this to come up on the screen, so let's get this done. Ha ha ha, like it's ever going to really be done. On Hunter Biden and the Bidens in general. It's obvious that if the Bidens were investigated to the hilt, then a lot of the crimes would be detected. They seem to be some kind of corrupt dynasty. I will be surprised if the big guy doesn't pardon himself. Okay, here we go. The Bidens were investigated to the hilt, and there wasn't enough dirt to actually even bring a court case. You're demanding a completely separate level of... Trump has been found guilty and would be in prison now if our legal system had the balls to defy a bunch of very angry people in this country that threatened to literally burn down the country if we threw one man in prison for what he's literally convicted of. Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 felonies. And because of his position, should be prosecuted and punished to the fullest extent of the law, max penalty only. Why? Because I do not want him in power. That's one way of saying it. The other one is, I don't want a failed criminal running our country. Now let's talk about Joe Biden. Let's say he's a successful criminal. Let's say he's the true Teflon Don. What are the actual accusations against him that you can look up? This is not looking up literally, he's a space alien, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about this in the same vein. A failure to convict should result in not prosecuting. Okay, how about this one? A failure to be able to bring a case because you don't have any evidence you're willing to allow people to see because it's bupkis. A 2023 September 23rd list of claims against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden mixed together. I want to point out that a lot of this was based on bullshit evidence, meaning not evidence, claims. I'm going to spew them out. Joe lied about and had knowledge of foreign business dealings that he was involved in and or his son, and he just lied about it. If you invest money and the person in charge of investing your money doesn't tell you what they're investing in, are you actually lying or are you just ignorant of it? Lots of people have money handled by a money manager. I'm not saying that's the situation, but let's go for it. Now, all of these are actually part of the same accusation. They're chopped up into pieces to make it look like a longer list. That was one. $20 million in payments in a or to or from a shell company. It's actually all part of the same accusation. Biden's business associates had hundreds of transactions flagged as suspicious, and also his because they were working with him or for him. But then people don't give you the list. $5 million bribes, two of them, to the Bidens, and it's a claim by someone who won't come forward or provide evidence. Now we're getting to the actual complaints. Let's see if these sound familiar. October 2018, Hunter Biden lied on a gun buying form. And he didn't pay his taxes. These aren't in question. This is just Hunter Biden being a fuck-up. The next claim is, and it's just this word, the laptop. And again and again and again, for legal reasons, certain prosecutors and defense people, and more importantly, the law enforcement agencies have decided to claim, no, it's totally Hunter Biden's laptop. That way, legally, we have a plaintiff and we can go after it. Gimme, gimme. Or another one, okay, if you're claiming it's his and you're making these accusations, we're going to claim you stole it. If you run, and I've already covered this, if you run a computer shop and you leak information about a customer, you're a bastard. Unless you can prove that they broke a law. And yeah, well, the laptop, when you look up what's said on the laptop that isn't something that's been tampered with, that was caught. People found out that the conservatives were tampering with that data file. They just don't respond when you point out that they got caught. That doesn't mean they didn't do it. That just means they're hoping you won't pay attention to them, being very suspicious. What you don't find on that laptop data file is evidence. So what does this actually break down to? We're going to say it's about a half a dozen accusations. They come down to one word, barisma, the presumption that a sitting vice president at the time, or president, depending on what year you decide this happened in, because people take one incident, put it in two different, periods of time, that a very high-ranking official in the United States government helped out his son and was an influence peddler. And this keeps getting brought up over and over again. And again, by not letting it ever come to a point where you bring it to a court case, you can keep it in play and keep poking until the person either, Epsteins themselves, or they basically give up and decide, you know what, screw it. I'm going to pardon my son just to piss you off, which is what happened. No, Joe Biden isn't going to run for anything anymore. He's killed himself, legally speaking. He can't hold office anymore. He's going to go off, and I guarantee you he's going to play up the idea, oh, I'm mentally unstable and I'm a doddering old man. He's going to play that up in public, like he hasn't been playing it up in the past. Now I think he's actually got something very, very medically wrong with him, and has had for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years now, at least. Very serious. Trump has been a slow burn for the entire time. I kind of think Trump handles it better. They're both fucked up, and neither of them should be in office. But anyway, let's move on. Trump literally convicted with evidence and nobody able to argue it. Half a dozen arguments that somebody named Biden has to be fucked with, but you can see a deliberate attempt not to let it come to court. One of them is how the legal system works, but they didn't put him in prison like they're supposed to. Versus a slow burn for political and ideological reasons as propaganda against one party. This is the same thing as, I'm sure the Clintons are guilty of something, and I can tell you who's hiding it most. The Republicans, because they need them kicking around so they can bring it up every 5 minutes. Hillary's email, they lost all the emails. They didn't lose the email, they retrieved I can't say they retrieved 100%, because that's physically impossible to say something like that. But they retrieved all the emails, they're not missing. And there are not any missing emails that would show that Hillary Clinton was in league with Satan or some other bullshit. It's bullshit. A real prosecution is when you railroad the person and get a conviction, not when you literally do your best to make sure the court case can't go through or finalized. Hunter Biden having a finalized case before Donald Trump was going to be running for election was not something they were interested in. So they delayed justice. They delayed your pound of flesh. Next one, is Hunter Biden allowed to have a gun? I'm pretty sure that Joe Biden gave him a total pardon. A total pardon is you're not allowed to touch him. He's untouchable for everything from that date backwards, for literally everything. Which means, legally speaking, he could make the argument that he could have a firearm. I think that's wrong. I also think it's wrong that they take your gun rights away if you haven't done anything violent. If it didn't involve a gun, why are you restricting access to it? If someone drives drunk, take their driver's license away. If they shoot up a building, the driver's license isn't relevant. And vice versa. So, and again, people just bring up memes and propaganda about one of them, and the other one is an actual fucking convict. So yeah, hundreds of accusations later that all amount to really 6 actual accusations being rehashed and slightly reworded with time and date stamp shifted so it looks new. That would be an example of failed prosecution over and over again. And is that a good example? Why are you bringing this up? Because this is an example of why we have rules against prosecuting people over and over again. When you fail, you failed. But I don't know the answer. You tell me the answer. I don't know. I really don't. and I'm tired, and I think most of us are. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.